The entire basketball community lost their minds once Thomas dropped that bombshell. Everyone kept quiet about Jordan's side, but I'm exposing it. Look, it is no secret that Michael Jordan holds one permanent grudge. Isiah Thomas. You won't convince me otherwise. This isn't just about winning a few ball games. We are talking the bitterest rivalry in hoops history, full of spite, envy, and backstabbing that went way beyond the hardwood floors. Let's unwrap the real drama, the messy backstage politics that turned Isiah's resentment into the most explosive feud we have ever seen. Pure, unadulterated, green-eyed envy. Ego and some seriously dirty politics caused that infamous walk-off during the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals. Truly cold. Just wait for the leaked audio that basically got Isiah blacklisted from the Dream Team. It is wild stuff. This mess didn't start under the bright lights. It was simmering for years. Imagine the mid-1980s. Isiah Thomas owned Detroit. The Motor City was his personal kingdom. He bled for them and earned every bit of that love. Detroit was built on pure grit, and Isiah was the poster child. Playing the Pistons felt like walking into war. Then, enter this flashy kid from North Carolina, Michael Jordan. He didn't just hoop, he flipped the whole culture, the shoes, the hype, those insane highlights. MJ brought an energy unlike anything else. Suddenly, Isiah wasn't the main event, and man, that had to sting. Thomas was the blue-collar general, the tough leader, but Jordan? He was the stone-cold killer and the global superstar combined. The NBA wanted faces they could sell, players who could move sneakers and pack out arenas across the globe. Michael did that better than anyone, turning the game into a massive worldwide movement. For Isiah, it wasn't just losing points, he was losing his grip. That spotlight he worked for, it moved elsewhere. He expected to be the post-Bird king, but Jordan showed up and totally changed what greatness looked like. MJ made being a god look easy. That burned Thomas because his respect was forged in blood, not Gatorade commercials. When the world's attention shifted, Isiah didn't take it well. Honestly, he cracked. Word got out that during Jordan's first All-Star appearance in 1985, Isiah might have played some dirty games. Rumors flew that he talked the veterans into freezing out the rookie, essentially ignoring MJ on the court to keep him from blowing up. Petty, right? Of course Isiah denied it. He laughed off the freeze-out story, claiming he didn't have the leverage to boss around giants like Larry Bird, Dr. J, or Moses Malone. But here is where the plot thickens. Peter Vexey later dropped a bomb. Isiah's own agent, Dr. Charles Tucker, told him at halftime that the freeze-out was actually happening. He confirmed Isiah and the boys were intentionally keeping the rock away from young Michael. Even wilder? When confronted, Isiah basically admitted he leaked the rumor himself, then tried to pivot later on. Think about that. Your own circle is telling people you tried to sabotage Michael Jordan at his first big All-Star showing. Whether it was planned or not, the bridges were burned. Jordan never let it go. Every matchup after that was a grudge match. This wasn't just ball, it was a war. From that point on, Michael saw it as more than just a rookie test. It was personal. This wasn't friendly trash talk anymore. It felt like a betrayal. But the real mystery is this. Why take that heat out on a rookie? MJ didn't make the league's marketing choices. That is just weird. Sure, Isiah was the king, once the gritty, hard-nosed general who ruled the city of Detroit like his own personal kingdom. But being tough was not enough to stay relevant. The league was evolving fast under David Stern. Basketball wasn't just a sport anymore. It was becoming a billion-dollar global brand. They didn't just need champions, they needed icons. And Jordan? He was the perfect face for the new world. He wasn't just playing. Sneakers, commercials, Gatorade, video games, the man was literally everywhere you looked, 24/7. Every dunk and every camera flash turned him into the league's golden goose. He made basketball global. He made it cool. When he first stepped away in 1993, David Stern admitted the NBA owed its massive success to Jordan's magic. Appreciate the insight, Dan. David, you mentioned today was a happy day for you personally, but tell us why you actually felt that way. I called it a great day for Michael because he has done truly legendary things for this game. Just imagine, you think you're the king, then you watch the whole world hand your crown to some kid. That was Isaiah's nightmare. The killer part? This new guy was a rookie with a vibe Isiah couldn't touch, pure, unadulterated star power. And man, it cut deep because, well, because Isiah was a Chicago kid representing Detroit. Talk about a conflict of interest. So when MJ rolled into Chicago and basically claimed the city stealing every headline and every heart, it wasn't just Detroit losing their grip. It was a straight-up personal insult to Isiah. Jordan wasn't just ruling the league, he was conquering Isaiah's literal backyard. Look, he's never going to be Mike. And Mike? He doesn't want your friendship, Isiah. How many times do I have to say it? He is not your friend. Simple as that. Stay on TV, keep yapping on TNT. Now you're claiming everyone is better than MJ? It's fine. But you're not better than Mike. Period. Underneath all that tough guy Piston swagger, pure, cold fear, fear of fading away, being swapped out, and becoming just another yesterday's news. That slow cooker jealousy turned into something ugly, and instead of cooling off, it just went nuclear on the court. Isaiah's ego slammed right into Detroit's bad boys persona, birthing a legendary era of absolute basketball thuggery. They didn't just want to stop Jordan, they wanted to dismantle him. They scrutinized his film, dissected every habit, and built a whole damn playbook meant to break him. The Jordan rules. This wasn't some minor strategy shift, this was a full-scale invasion. You guys ran those Jordan rules, right? We coined that phrase in Detroit because Chuck Daly's orders were simple. If Michael goes to the hole, put him on the floor. I'd always say it, the second he leaves his feet, you have to hit him. Hard. Every single drive, we made him pay. It all kicked off after MJ dropped 59 on Detroit in April of 1988. Absolutely embarrassing. That one game changed the vibe. Inside the Pistons locker room, things got heated. It wasn't just let's play better defense. No, it was let's break his spirit. From that point on, the goal was set. Mess with his head, kill his rhythm, and if the situation called for it, actually hurt the guy. Detroit was brutal. John Sally later admitted it really just boiled down to 3 words. Push him left. You guys had something called the Jordan rules. Tell us about that. Just push him left? That's the secret sauce right there. Honestly, that's all I can leak. It's still top secret information, you know? Every time Michael touched the rock, the trap snapped shut. Double him, bump him, shove him into a wall. Crowd the paint, get in his grill, and just annoy him until he snapped. If he actually tried to dunk, enforcers like Bill Laimbeer and Dennis Rodman were waiting to deck him. Dangerous, even. The Pistons weren't just defending their rings. They were protecting their pride. No freebies, no flow, and definitely no peace. Isaiah's squad wanted Jordan destroyed on every level mentally, physically, and deep in his soul. They wanted to prove that no matter how gifted he was, they were still the biggest goons in the gym. But then the plan backfired. Jordan didn't crumble. He ate the pain and the bruises, then came back terrifyingly stronger. Every shove just added more fuel to his engine. He hit the weights, bulked up, sharpened his footwork, and turned all that frustration into a cold, focused fire. By the time 1991 rolled around, the Chicago Bulls weren't just a one-man show anymore. They were a freight train ready to rewrite NBA history. By 1991, the Chicago Bulls had become a well-oiled machine. Everyone knew their lane. The plays were surgical, and when they faced Detroit again in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was time to collect the debt. This wasn't just a game, it was pure, unadulterated revenge. The Bulls didn't just win, they swept Detroit right off the map. After years of getting roughed up by the bad boys, Jordan's crew finally flipped the script. Chicago steamrolled Detroit and then dismantled the Lakers 4-1 in the finals, grabbing their first legendary NBA title in style. But before that gold was even in their hands, one specific moment in that Pistons series defined Isiah Thomas's legacy and not for the better. Game 4. Chicago's up 115-94. Only 7.9 seconds left. The Bulls were heartbeats away from ending Detroit's dynasty, and Isiah's move? He just walked off. Their era was officially over. With 4:38 left in the game, Isiah suddenly bails and heads for the tunnel. No handshakes, no eye contact, zero respect shown. He just turned his back and vanished as if the Bulls weren't even standing there. That wasn't a "we'll get 'em next year" exit. That was pure, unmasked ego, and he's had plenty of time to regret how that looked. Throw whatever you've got my way. Sure, guys like Joe Dumars and John Sally kept it classy by sticking around for a quiet handshake, but Thomas's petty exit eclipsed everything, showing just how venomous this feud had actually become. Isiah tried spinning some story about Jordan being disrespectful to Detroit first, but please, let's be real for a second. After years of those Jordan rules beatdowns, Mike had every right to talk. Detroit looked like total sore losers in the papers. Players like Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen didn't hold back, calling the whole stunt straight up immature. Jordan didn't say much. He just let his rings do the talking, though you know he was fuming deep down. Every dirty foul and shove from those Pistons teams forged him into the most ruthless player the league had ever seen. That sweep? It was a brutal statement. And that's exactly what ate away at Isiah Thomas. How could the guy they spent years trying to physically break end up being the greatest to ever play? That loss didn't just end a season, it crushed Isiah's soul, and he's been nursing that wound for 30 years. Long after the Pistons fell apart, Isiah was still bringing up Jordan like a bitter ex who just can't move on. Honestly, there is a video where he basically admits to the whole thing. Everyone bowed down to him, but I wouldn't. That's why he hated me straight up admitting that jealousy fueled the fire. He hated that Mike's respect wasn't manufactured through politics or hype, but earned through total unmitigated dominance. Nobody was bowing to MJ like Isiah claimed. They just respected the man who dismantled every opponent in his path. Cut to May 2020, nearly 3 decades later, and Isiah is still out here trying to change the narrative. He went on Fox Sports and actually tried to argue that Jordan never really got the best of Larry or Magic. Michael didn't beat Larry Bird. You show one highlight of him going between his legs once against Larry, and that's it. That was the 60-point game, the one where he put 63 on Bird's head. It's pure delusion. Then, talking to Shannon Sharpe, he doubled down, claiming MJ wasn't even real competition for him. Just wild. Head-to-head, I was the one winning when we played. Looking back at it, until that 1991 wrist surgery ended things, the record against him and his squad. Honestly, it wasn't even a contest back then. It's laughable, really, because every single stat and championship ring tells a completely different story. Mike ended every great run, the Celtics, the Lakers, and yeah, those bad boy Pistons too. Yet Isiah keeps playing this game where he's the ultimate rival, the one obstacle Jordan couldn't actually clear. But anyone with eyes saw the truth. Jordan didn't just clear that hurdle. He burnt the whole track down. Even Scottie Pippen had enough, eventually calling Isiah out for being incredibly bitter and ungrateful. A guy who won't give credit where it's due, despite Mike earning it every single night, and he's totally right. Ultimately, Isiah Thomas won't be remembered for stopping Jordan, but as the guy who couldn't stand watching him win, I just find those comments, well, they're pure salt. I have never once seen this guy show any love or gratitude for what Jordan did for basketball. It's actually insane. We're talking about a 2-time champ and Finals MVP who once owned the Eastern Conference, now spending his golden years trying to convince us the GOAT wasn't actually that good. It's almost sad, that whole "I won't bow down" thing. Give me a break. It perfectly captures his whole vibe: stubborn, incredibly salty, and completely detached from the facts. But life has a funny way of working out, and in the NBA, karma is basically undefeated, and it hit Isiah in a way he never saw coming. Because in 1992, Right after that pathetic walk-off, the basketball world changed forever. The league assembled the most legendary super team in history, the 1992 Olympic squad, aka the Dream Team. This wasn't just a roster, it was the most insane collection of basketball greatness ever put together. Magic, Bird, Mike, Malone, Pippen, Ewing, Barkley. It was just legends on top of legends. But when that list came out, one name was missing: Isiah Thomas. On paper, that was a total shock. He had the rings and the All-Star nods. Even his own coach, Chuck Daly, was running the show. Everything was set, except for his reputation. When May 1992 hit, his name was nowhere to be found. The company line? Chemistry above all, with zero room for locker room friction. Sure, naming guys like Stockton looked good on paper, but everyone saw through the act. That squeaky clean talk was a total front for the fact Isiah was toxic. He'd pissed off every heavyweight in the room, from Magic to Jordan, and even Pippen. On a squad built on brotherhood, nobody was willing to let old beef ruin the flow. Skill wasn't the issue. Respect was. Scottie Pippen didn't even hide it. He basically said, "Look, I'm not speaking for Mike, but I didn't want him there," pointing out that Isiah's attitude basically cost him a seat at the table. He claimed he wasn't speaking for Mike, but then 2011 hit. A leaked tape changed the whole narrative. It was Michael Jordan himself giving the committee a hard ultimatum: count me out if Isiah's on the roster. They'd reached out, begging him to join up. So Jordan told Rod Thorne point blank, "Rod, I'm not playing if Isiah is there." Think about that for a second. The biggest star on earth basically said, "He's not one of us." That beef was ice cold. Look at the stats. The committee had enough cover to hide the truth. In 1992, Isiah's career numbers were 19.2 points and 9.3 assists. Strong numbers, obviously. But Stockton was dropping 10.5 dimes a game. Drexler, he was putting up 20, 6, and 5 like it was nothing. Even Mullen and Kidd brought reliable game without any baggage. They could justify it on paper, but we all knew Isiah was qualified, but he just wasn't wanted. He wasn't cut for lack of talent. He was cut because nobody wanted the drama. Pure poetic justice. Karma caught up. If you spend your career burning bridges, don't be surprised when you're stuck on an island. The Dream Team was the pinnacle of hoops, and Isiah had to watch from his couch. And man, it ate at him. You can still hear the bitterness in his voice today. By 2020, he was calling it the massive void on his professional record. Decades later, the salt is still there. He's still making excuses. But honestly, he built that wall himself, one bad move at a time. It's fun to play the what-if game, though. If Isiah goes, do they lose? Not in a million years. Talent gets you in the door, but who you are determines if you're allowed to stay. Even with Isiah, the result is the same. Jordan, Magic, Bird, it was basically a cheat code. That squad had way too much heat for anyone to handle. Sure, he brings some toughness and that Detroit edge. Maybe the locker room gets a bit messier, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But eventually, the conversation stopped being about what he could do with a basketball. It was about the bad taste he left in everyone's mouth. So, he stayed home. Fast forward to 2020. Jordan's legendary status was bulletproof. 6 titles, 6 finals MVPs, and a massive global brand. The guy wasn't just a superstar. He was a literal god. Then The Last Dance dropped, peeling back the layers on that Bulls dynasty and reigniting every single old grudge. For fans, it was a masterpiece. For Isiah, it was like being forced to watch a horror movie. Watching that had to feel like rubbing salt in every old wound. Every insult, every snub, every petty handshake he dodged, and all the desperate stories he tried to sell. Those I'm on Mike's level claims dragged right back into the light. And now, the whole world was re-watching it in high definition. Jordan didn't even have to try. He just sat there smiling, telling his version of history while Isiah's complaints just sounded like static in the background. The doc showed MJ as the ultimate winner, the guy who didn't just play the game, he dictated the terms. Meanwhile, Isiah looked trapped in a 30-year-old war, and like clockwork, he started showing up on every screen again. Podcasts, talk shows, YouTube, you couldn't escape him, Club Shay Shay, Vlad TV, the whole circuit. He was everywhere, desperately trying to flip the script. Every time a mic was live, he was there, trying to convince us that Jordan's myth was mostly just hype. Here is the real kicker. Every single time Isiah opens his mouth, he basically reminds the world why he never even belonged in that specific conversation. See, while he was busy running his mouth, MJ's history was out there actually doing the heavy lifting. The rings and highlight reels did all the talking. Mike never felt the need to explain himself. His whole life was the ultimate mic drop. 6 rings, 6 finals trophies, 5 league MVPs, 10 scoring titles, and a global reach that turned him into the most famous person on the entire planet. You don't get there by accident. That is pure, uncut dominance. And honestly, Isiah just could not stomach it. Every single time that spotlight found Jordan, it just highlighted how bitter Isiah had become. That documentary didn't go out of its way to make him the villain. He handled that part himself. Whenever he had the chance to show class, he chose saltiness. And trust me, the whole world was watching. Look, if you actually want to get why Isiah Thomas can't let go of his grudge, you have to look past the technicals and the walk-offs. This wasn't just about hard fouls or getting snubbed from the Dream Team. It was deeper. Mike became everything Isiah ever dreamed of being. He was the face of the sport, a worldwide phenom loved everywhere from the south side of Chicago to the streets of Beijing. Jordan didn't just win on the court, he took over the culture. He built a massive empire of sneakers, movies, fashion, and icons. He didn't just give people a game to watch, he gave them an entire feeling they couldn't find anywhere else. Isiah, for all his toughness, was defined by that gritty Detroit vibe, but Jordan, he built an entire universe with himself at the center of it. And once you actually bring the math into the room, the whole argument just falls apart. We are talking 30.1 points, 6.2 boards, and 5.3 assists per night over his entire career. Isiah, 19.2 points and 9.3 assists, solid numbers, sure, but nowhere near the absolute destruction Mike brought every single night. It gets worse. In the postseason, Jordan went full beast mode, dropping 33.4 a game and going a perfect 6-0 in the finals with every MVP trophy. Meanwhile, Isiah managed to grab 2 titles back in 1989 and 1990. That is impressive, definitely. But when they finally clashed in 1991, the outcome told the only story that mattered. The Bulls absolutely decimated the Pistons 4-0. With MJ putting up 30 a night and nailing daggers like it was nothing, while Detroit tried every dirty trick. Brutal fouls, cheap shots, psychological warfare, none of it mattered. You simply could not stop what was coming for you. That is the bottom line. One man evolved and grew, while the other just stayed sour. Mike turned the struggle into a global legacy. Isiah let his ego turn into a lifetime of regret. That is why today, one is the GOAT and the other is just the guy who stayed mad. That is the real gap. It was never just about the box score. It was about the sheer weight of his presence. Jordan didn't just win basketball games, he marketed the entire sport to the planet. He made the game a literal global movement. Just look at the shoes, the ads, and the highlights. The man was everywhere at once. He wasn't just playing in the league, he was the league. Isiah, he stayed a hometown hero in Detroit, a local legend with city pride. But past those city limits, the world didn't feel that same connection. That worldwide adoration never reached him, and it definitely left a mark. Because for Isiah, that throne he thought he earned through blood and grit was suddenly occupied by someone else entirely. This whole rivalry stopped being about stats or trophies a long, long time ago. It became about the big moments. Jordan was at his absolute best when the pressure was suffocating and the stakes were high. Every buzzer beater and every impossible fadeaway just screamed one thing to the world: I am the best to ever do it. Mike didn't just handle the heat, he lived for it. Isiah could ball, no doubt, but he couldn't touch that level of era-defining dominance. Jordan was a cold, relentless machine, clinical and unstoppable. Even at his absolute peak, Isiah was just a really great basketball player. But Jordan? He was the gold standard. Every title and iconic dunk was just another reminder to Thomas that the world had moved on. It wasn't that Isiah wasn't elite, it is just that the world had already fallen completely in love with Michael. And can you really blame anyone for that? If you stack their careers up against each other, it isn't even a contest. Michael Jordan, 6 Finals MVPs, 5 League MVPs, 14 All-Star nods, 10 scoring titles, 10 All-NBA first teams, 10 All-Defensive first teams, 2 golds, and a cultural titan. Then you have Isiah Thomas, 1 Finals MVP, 12 All-Stars, 2 All-NBA first teams, 3 All-Defensive nods, and notably absent from the 1992 Dream Team roster. That isn't a rivalry, it is a total massacre. Jordan didn't just win games, he owned the whole damn zeitgeist. The sneakers, the aura, the respect, his DNA was written all over every single inch of the sport for decades. Isiah had the fire and a couple of rings, but Jordan had the world. He had the legacy, the stardom, and pure immortality. Every bucket, every highlight reel, it all points to the same truth. Mike wasn't just the better player, he was the actual blueprint. It's exactly why you can still feel that cold, lingering resentment from Isiah even decades later. Honestly, how do you even fight against a guy chosen for basketball immortality? Tell me, what is your take? Did Zeke ever really stand a chance against his airness, or was this beef doomed from day one? Weigh in below, hit that like, and send this around, especially that bit where Los Angeles got absolutely wrecked, because we have plenty more legendary league drama and deep dives ready to drop. Catch you in the next.